So have you ever had moments where you feel like you're just doing everything right? You're waking up early, you're putting in the work, you're doing the reps, you're eating clean, you're making the calls, and still nothing's happening. And it's frustrating because you feel like you're wasting your time and your energy. It's like you're planting seeds, but nothing's growing. But guess what? That's where most people quit. So how is it that some people can stay committed regardless of the results that they're seeing? I can tell you it's not that they're better than you, it's not that they're smarter than you, it's not that they have more willpower than you, but they just have a system that allows them to stay disciplined even when they aren't seeing the results they want to see. So in this video, we're going to talk about that system and how you can use it so that discipline isn't something you just try to do, but it's something that becomes a part of you, even when you aren't seeing the results you want. So let's first start by talking about what discipline is. Now, many people view discipline as forcing yourself to do things that you really don't feel like doing. And then you go and find some motivation to choke down like medicine just so you can stay consistent. For them, it's all about the action. Action, 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 action. But look, here's the problem with that mindset. When discipline is only about the action, you're going to burn yourself out. Because your effort is separate from your identity. Now, what do I mean? Think about it like this. Imagine you're working a job. You absolutely hate this job. I mean, you hate it, right? But you're only working this job because you need a check. You gotta pay your bills. You gotta provide for your family. Respect, 100%. But everything in you tells you, man, bro, this ain't it. This is for the birds. I need to be doing something else. I'm worth more. I'm worth more money. I need to be getting paid more. I need to be serving people in a better way, right? I need to be having more of an impact. I need to be doing something that feels like I'm in alignment with my purpose. But the opportunity just hasn't come around yet. So right now, you're working this gig. So every day you wake up with this pit in your stomach, right? This pit in your chest. You're already counting down the days the hours before you even get to work. You show up, you do the bare minimum, you clock out, you go home. But you're doing the work, but every day is taking more and more energy. It's burning you out as the days, weeks, months, and years go by. Why? It's because there's no alignment. There's no alignment between what you think you should be doing, and there's no alignment between what you're actually doing. Your actions are disconnected from your identity. Your actions are separate from your identity. Your actions are detached from your identity, which is draining you of your energy. And it's the same thing that happens in discipline. When discipline is only about the action, you're putting in the work, you're eating clean, you're making the calls, you're doing everything you need to do, but your heart's not in it. Your identity's not in it. So then it drains you of your energy. But look, discipline is more than just a tool for getting something, but it's a tool for becoming who you were meant to become. See, discipline is the process of becoming who you need to become so you can do the things you need to do consistently. Because you'll never be able to act consistently if you first don't become who you need to become. Change your internal thoughts and narratives, right? Change your identity. You'll never act consistently because you will always fall to your old patterns and habits. Why? Because your identity will always prove itself right. Those who win consistently don't win because of what they do, but they win consistently because that's who they are. Actions follow beliefs, not the other way around. And again, your identity will always prove itself right. So whatever you believe about yourself to be true or untrue, it's always going to prove itself right. You may get some results for a little while. You may have a little motion for a little bit. But you're always going to fall back to those old patterns and habits. Am I saying that actions don't matter? No, I'm not saying that. Am I saying that your habits don't matter? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what matters more is the internal shift that's happening under those actions and habits. That's what matters more. But when you shift your identity, right, that's when your behaviors begin to shift consistently. And success isn't something that you do for a little while, something you do for a long while. But look, here's the real reason why a lot of people quit when they aren't seeing any results. Because people have become, especially in this social media world, especially in the world of instant gratification, you click a button, something's at your door. You click a button, you got it instantly. People have become so addicted to the results. And there's nothing wrong with getting results. You should get results, but they have become addicted to the results. Instant results at that. People care more about what they're going to get from the process versus who they're becoming in the process. And when you become addicted to the outcome, you become allergic to the process. But the process is the only way that's going to get you true transformation. See, most people treat discipline like a vending machine. I put something in, I got to get something back. And then when you don't get the results that you want in the time that you want it, you're banging on the machine talking about, I want my 50 cents back. You're going to management, you're calling the people, man, I put 50 cents in this machine. I need my money back. Because you want these instant gratification, these instant results. But that's not discipline, that's transactional effort. Discipline does not work like Amazon. You put in 2 days of work and it shows up right at your door. You put in 2 days of work and boom, there's your results. But discipline is more like a bamboo tree. Listen, a bamboo tree takes 5 years. 5 years before it breaks ground. Let that sink in. 5 years before it breaks ground. So nobody even knows the bamboo tree is there. Right? But after those 5 years, it can take 6 weeks to grow 90 feet. 6 weeks to grow 90 feet. But in those 5 years, was nothing happening? In those 5 years, was it just sitting there not doing anything? No, in those 5 years, it was building roots. It was building a solid foundation. It's just like building a house. Everybody likes to compliment the design of the house, the color of the house, the high ceilings, the accents, all of these different things. But no one rarely talks about the foundation of the house. And the foundation of the house is the most important. You see, when you're in your process and you're building whatever you're building, you're working towards becoming who you want to become. You're working towards whatever results you're working towards, right? You have to remind yourself and remember that when there's no applause, when the content isn't hitting like you want to, when the business is at zero, when you're eating the foods but you aren't seeing the pounds come off the scale, when you're doing the work and you aren't seeing the results that you want, you have to remind yourself that you're building a foundation. You have to remind yourself you're building roots so that when you do break ground, you'll be able to sustain that 90 feet in 6 weeks. You'll be able to scale 90 feet in 6 weeks. Right? And just imagine if that bamboo tree in 5 years decides, you know what? I'm tired of being down here. Nobody can see me. Nobody knows that I'm down here. Nobody even knows that I exist. Nobody knows what I'm building. Nobody's rewarding me. Nobody's applauding me. Nobody's looking at me. Just imagine if it was like 3 months in, you know what? I'm going to break ground. I'm tired of this. It's dark down here. It's hard down here. I'm coming out of this thing. Imagine 3 months in, it decides it wants to break ground. How high do you think it's going to go? Do you think it would last? No, it probably won't even get 9 inches. Maybe a foot. Why? Because it didn't give it time. It didn't give itself time to build a solid foundation so that it could sustain and hold up that exponential growth in a quick amount of time. The foundation is the most important. But if you take shortcuts, right, in your success is going to be cut short. every time. So just because you aren't seeing the things that you want to see doesn't mean that nothing's happening. That is one of the biggest lies your mind will ever tell you, is that nothing's happening while you're working towards becoming the person you want to become, while you're working towards getting the results that you want to get. That's the biggest lie your mind will tell you, because something is always happening. Just because you don't see it, something's happening. You know, I remember last year, I ran my first marathon. And about a little over halfway into my training and my prep, I got injured. Now, my injury took me 5 weeks to heal. And I didn't know it was going to take 5 weeks. So that was one aspect to it, right? Because now I'm in the unknown. I don't know how long it's going to take for me to heal, but it ended up taking 5 weeks. Now, during those 5 weeks, I had to cross train. I had to do the sled, the rower. I had to do the skis. I had to do a bunch of strength building exercises to build up my weak points. A bunch of different things. And while I'm in this process, what's going through my mind is, man, this is for the birds. Because if you know, running a marathon, the only way to train for a marathon is running. Because you need time on feet. Your body needs to get used to that impact. And I wasn't running. So for me, it's a bunch of mind games like, man, this is stupid. This ain't working. Like, I'm out here pushing the sled. I'm out here rowing. Yes, my heart rate's getting up and my endurance is getting up, but my legs aren't hitting the pavement. My legs aren't getting used to that impact. So a couple times I went out and I was like, man, forget this. I'm going to go out and try to run anyway. As soon as I take a step, boom, felt like my bone was cracking. And I knew that I had to go back to the drawing board and stick to the process. But I was so focused on the results that I wanted to get in completing this marathon that I lost a little sight of who I was becoming in the process. So I had to reshift my focus to who I was becoming, because I had to realize that I was becoming a person who, even though is faced with challenges and a setback, I was becoming a person who pivots in the process of having a setback and of having a challenge, right? And sticking in the process. That was one person I was becoming. I was becoming a person who overcomes challenges and just doesn't quit and finds the easy way out. Because part of the process, I even looked for other races. I was like, man, I can't get my money back, so I'm just gonna chalk this up. I'm gonna find me another race to do. Really wasn't a race, it was a run, because I wasn't racing nobody. But it was all about who I was becoming. And then fast forward, after those 5 weeks, I only had 3 more weeks before the actual run day, before the actual marathon. I came back faster. My legs recovered faster. And my wind was better. So just because you're in the process doesn't mean that nothing's not working, right? Just because you aren't seeing the results that you want, just because it looks different, doesn't mean it's not working. So when you're building the business, when you aren't seeing the results you want, when you're doing the content, you aren't seeing the results that you want, when you're doing the workouts, eating the foods, making the calls, just remember, you're building a solid foundation. You're building the roots you need to be able to sustain where you're capable of going. Because if you don't have a solid foundation, everything's just going to collapse and it won't last. So let's talk about some things that you can do in those silent seasons when you aren't seeing the results. Some things you can remind yourself. Number 1 is emotional reps. Every time you show up, you're building emotional stamina. You're building emotional stability. You're building yourself to be able to handle pressure, which is going to be needed for when you get to the place that you want to go, right? It's not that things get easier. It's just that you get stronger. So in this process, you're building those emotional reps. So where certain things don't affect you as they would or may right now. So you have to remind yourself of that. You're becoming a person who can stay composed under pressure. You're becoming a person who can look at a problem and focus more on the solution. You're becoming an optimistic person. Someone who just doesn't look at the problem and then get depressed and then want to find a scapegoat and ignore the problem versus seeing the problem and understanding the problem, but looking at the solution and finding the solution. Becoming a problem solver. You're building those emotional reps, but you have to remind yourself of that. So number 2, you want to focus on the input versus the outcome, right? Outcomes are things that we can't control. Everybody has this thing of, I need to set a goal. I need to set a goal. But a goal is saying that you want a certain outcome within a certain amount of time, which is something that is outside of your control. So you're asking yourself to believe in something that you have no control over, which just doesn't make sense to me, right? Instead, you need to be setting actions, right? Setting actions as your goal. Setting actions as the things that you're going to do, right? Because when you focus on the outcome or something that is outside of your control, then you're going to feel out of control. When you focus on things that are within your control, then that's when you feel in control. So you want to focus on your input and not the outcome. I want to lose weight. I want to lose 30 pounds. For 8 weeks straight, I'm going to go to the gym every day for 45 minutes. And I'm going to do X amount of sets, X amount of reps. And I'm also going to make sure I control what I eat in those 8 weeks. I'm not going to have any cheat meals. I'm not going to have any fast food. I'm going to cook off my food. I'm going to prep in advance. Those are the things you need to be focused on. Because again, when you focus on outcomes, you're going to feel out of control. Why? Because outcomes can't be controlled. When you focus on your inputs, you're going to feel in control. Because your inputs are things you have control over. So you want to focus inputs versus outcomes. And last, you want to focus on who you're becoming in the process versus what you can get from the process. Because remember, when you focus on what you can get, right? When you become addicted to the results and the outcomes, you become allergic to the process, but it is only through the process that you can reach that true transformation. Discipline is not just about the actions that you take, but it's more so about the type of person that you're becoming. It's about aligning your actions with your identity. Because if there's no identity shift, you'll never be able to do the actions consistently. Never. Because identity will always prove itself right. Every time. So you want to focus on who you're becoming in the process. And when you do those 3 things, I guarantee you'll be able to stick with the process even when you aren't seeing any results. But I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Lou. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share with somebody you feel might be able to benefit from this content. And I will catch you on the next video.